Thank you. I'm just waiting for a thumbs up from our friends who are live streaming that we're good to go. We are good to go. Okay, everybody, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for coming to this evening's rally. My name's James Giles. I'll be chairing this evening's rally, and so I have a few bits of housekeeping to do first, if I may. The fire exits can be found at the back of the room. We're not expecting a fire alarm, so if the fire alarm does sound, please make your way down the stairs the same way you came in and congregate outside the venue. If you require assistance to leave the building, please raise your hand and one of the stewards will come to assist you. Hopefully that doesn't happen this evening, but have to make that clear at the start. Now, I want to, first of all, conduct just one vote this evening, and I hope it's something we can agree unanimously. And that is, if there is any disruption this evening, I'd like permission from the floor to agree that any disruptors be escorted out of the building by security. Okay. Agree. I will take that as agreed. Thank you very much indeed. Now, it's been a bumpy road, I think it's fair to say, but we're here on the eve of what I'm sure will be a historic conference. Now, on some issues, people in this room will disagree, but I'm sure we can do it in a comradely manner. But what I'm sure we all agree upon is that the party must belong to the members. We want maximum member democracy. We want a broad, inclusive, tolerant party, and now is the time to come together. And to that end, I'm hoping on all of your seats there will be one of these leaflets from Zarah, and if there isn't, you can collect one at the end. On it, really importantly, is a WhatsApp QR code, and that will take you to a link to Zarah's channel, where throughout conference she will give updates, announcements, steers on various votes, all with a view to that maximum member democracy that we've been speaking about now for many weeks. So if you don't have one, please collect one on your way out. And to our friends that are watching on the live stream, there is a link that will go on Zarah's social media so that you too can join that channel when you're voting from home over this weekend. Finally, I want to thank our friends at Turn Left Media for live streaming this event, which enables the audience to be so much greater than just the hundreds in this room. So we're truly grateful for them. Now, look, we've got a stellar lineup, so I don't intend on hogging the mic any longer. I want to hand over, first of all, to the president of the Bakers Food and Allied Workers Union, Ian Hodson. Ian, the lectern is yours.
Comrades, sisters, and I found my chair, by the way. I'm sat down there. There wasn't enough room at the inn, but it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to join this amazing panel and to be here at this historic eve. It's like Christmas, isn't it? Really, for politics. But it's but it's a real honour to have been invited by Zarah to come and address this rally tonight. I mean, I suppose like many of you in this room in July, when Zarah announced that she was going to be working with Jeremy Corbyn to build a new party of the left, you was enthusiastic and as excited as I certainly was. I mean, in fact, I was so excited, I noticed that 800,000 people came and joined my excitement too. And but it demonstrates, doesn't it? It demonstrates that people want an alternative to the rubbish that we've been served for nearly 50 years. A politics that's now put reform at the door of Downing Street, a politics of division, a politics that is of hate, a politics that will not build a society about equality or justice or improve our lives, but will cause division, will cause inequality, and will make people's lives a misery. That is not the politics we want to see. That is not the reason why people in the UK want to see their politicians actually promoting, but that's the politics we are now being offered. And the choice is quite stark, isn't it? We've got a Labour Party that's marched to the right. We've got a Tory party that's further to the right. And then we've got a Reform Party that's verging on fascism. And that's the reality. And let's be clear. The only solution to the injustices and the hardships we have in our lives, and let's be clear as well, if the politics of hate and division can make a comeback, so can the politics that gave us the National Health Service, that created full employment, that delivered a welfare state, that improved all of our lives. If the politics of hate can make a comeback, so can the politics of justice, equality, and making sure that our lives are decent and respectful of one another, where our children's education is not taught to them by people who are afraid to go out at night, but people who feel part of the community that they live in. And I think that's really, really important too, because I think we also have to be clear. The people in the hotels are not our enemies. The people in the hotels are people fleeing persecution. They're seeking asylum in a country they believe is safe. They are not our enemies. The enemies of us are the people that has made sure that the decisions that have been taken have made our lives so hard. They are the people who sold off our council homes and the reason why we can't have decent housing in this country. They are the people that actually enabled 0 hours contracts. It wasn't a Polish builder, by the way, that enabled a contract of employment to go to being an insecure 0 hours contract. That was corporations and politicians that allowed that to happen. It wasn't an Asian, right, or somebody from India, Pakistan, that said that society must have low pay and depend on food banks. Those were political decisions made in Westminster. They have never been the decisions of working class people like you and me. They've always been decisions of politicians. And that's why this weekend, this historic event is really, really important. This opportunity for us. And I know that obviously there's a bit of trepidation. Obviously, when the left, can fall out, then we will, but we can make up. I'm certain of it. That's the beauty of the left, isn't it? Because the thing is, we have many, many things in common. We have more in common than divides us. We have more that can unite us. We have more that enables us to build a society, because that passion is what drives us. And sometimes that passion gets in the way, and it makes us see things that aren't there. I have trade union banners. On that banner, it says, the past we inherit and the future we build. I know that when Jeremy Corbyn and Zarah Sultana stand on that platform at this conference and stand there together, united, we'll remember how Jeremy Corbyn infused the nation in 2017 and nearly won a general election and shook up the establishment, and the lengths they went to make sure he didn't succeed in 2019. And we'll see the youth and enthusiasm of Zarah Sultana, someone who talks about us in a way that we understand, somebody who talks to a voice, somebody who understands that together be about making history, no matter what happens at this conference on Monday. On Monday, we have a duty to one another to build the movement that changes society, that delivers for all of us and is inclusive and promotes equality and promotes acceptance, whatever your sex, however you identify, whatever your race and whatever your religion. So thank you very much for indulging me. And I tried to be very calm just in case I said something wrong. Because I know there might be one or two press people in the room and I don't want to embarrass anybody. But listen, Zarah, I wish you all the best. I congratulate you. I'm putting this party on the map that takes us to this conference tomorrow, that takes the opportunity for us as people to actually have a politics and a party that we can get behind. So thank you.
Thank you, Ian, for that rousing first speech. More in common that unites us. I hope that'll be a theme that continues throughout the evening. For those who are local to Liverpool, you will know our next speaker well, I'm sure. Campaigner extraordinaire and representative of the Merseyside pensioners. You please give it up for local legend, Audrey White.
Can you hear me now? Good. Well, I just want to first thank whoever invited me, because you know everything's secret. So thanks for inviting me, and especially because I'm a terrorist. And you know, if you'll have to leave because you feel unsafe, please feel free to leave now. We're living in a world, you know, where terrorists, you know, peacekeepers are terrorists. Peacekeepers are terrorists. Oops, genocide isn't genocide. Justice isn't justice. And, you know, 2,000 people like me, we think it's funny. We do think it's funny because it's bloody ridiculous. But they don't think it's funny. When you're in a cell and when you're in court in a glass cage and they're looking at you like you're some, you know, terrorist. Absolutely, you're a terrorist. This is the world we're living in today. And we've got to build a party because the people, and there's thousands of us, and there'll be thousands more, taking up civil disobedience because that's the front line at the moment. The front line is to defend the Palestinians against genocide. The front line is to fight for our freedom to protest and our freedom to speak, because that's what's been taken from us. And mark my words, it'll be used against the trade union movement. Absolutely no question about it. And it will be used to stop working class people fighting for a living wage, fighting the right wing in this country who are creeping up upon us, not so slowly, to be honest with you. And we've got to make sure that we build this party, not just for electoral success. Of course we need that. We've not had a voice in Parliament for a bloody long time. Nothing's new. Labour hasn't just turned into the nasty bastards, to be honest with you. Labour has always betrayed the working class for a long, long time. So, you know, one of the things we've got to do is fight to de-prescribe Palestine action. That's what we've got to do. But to get to this weekend, it leaves a heavy burden on all of us. You know, and I don't apologise for taking a really serious note, because if we walk away from this conference and we haven't left it with those ideals we talk about all the time, about democracy, about accountability, and about openness and transparency, and if we don't do that, we will have failed every worker who is fighting to keep a roof over their heads. We will fail those poor refugees drowning in the seas around us. We will absolutely fail everybody who's got an investment in the planet, because the planet itself is at risk, and we are whistling our way to oblivion if we don't start taking seriously those matters that defend our planet. And what's the worst thing? What's the thing that attacks that destroys the planet most? War. War, and more war. And more exploitation of resources, and more exploitation of working class people who live miserable lives trying to scrape a living while they are making the rich even richer. And I want to talk just a few minutes about the Merseyside pensioners. Well, half a minute. Chair. The Merseyside pensioners, we're a very, very active group, and that's what this party has to be. It has to be full of activism, because we win more through activism, actually, than we ever win from MPs in Parliament. And it's always from below. It's always from below. We don't have to wait for it. We've got it. We are the power, and we've got to take that power, no matter who leads the party, no matter whether there's a dozen leaders or one. And we're the people who've got to decide what those decisions are. We've got to fight over this weekend for democracy, and you'll see loads and loads of leaflets around this room. So I'm sorry, but we'll have to say I've been very active with the platform for Democratic Party. So please read this leaflet that's on your seats. So when we talk about democracy, what do we mean? It's a nice word. It's a throw around word. What do we mean by democracy? Well, I'll tell you what we mean. It means branches in every area with a clear strategy for sinking their roots in local communities and national leadership elected at a properly constituted conference by a single transferable vote. One man, a faux pas. It's my age. Sorry. One member, one vote. Members in local branches to choose the candidates. Never ever again will we have imposed candidates on us. And these people must have broad working class appeal and proven commitment, not somebody who's just turned up on the doorstep, proven commitment to their communities. And this is essential, really is, to fight back reform. Well, what do we mean about accountability? I'll tell you what, we've been betrayed and betrayed and betrayed. Not just Keir Starmer, but the Dan Cardens of the world, and others. You know them in your areas. You know the people who you had faith in don't have faith anymore. We can't trust any of them anymore. We have to make sure that there is no bribery. This is for MPs, councillors, mayors, paid officials. There'll be no bribery, no gifts, no donations or second jobs. No imposed candidates and no jobs for life. All elected representatives. It's my speech, comrade. All elected representatives and paid party officials must be open to recall at any time. Once they betray us, they're out. They all should be subject to mandatory reselection annually and receive no more than the worker's wage. Okay, a skilled wage. Openness and transparency. What do we mean by that? You know, we have to explain what we mean when we say these things. No secret factional manoeuvrings. No more witch hunts. We're sick of witch hunts destroying our party. No personal vendettas, and a party open to all who share our views. If we're a big enough party, we've got to do something to get those 800,000 people to join our party. And the only way to do it is to put forward, why are we different? Why are we different to any other party? Well, because of those things I've just been referring to, because we never have accountability, we never have democracy, and we never have transparency. And they're the things we've got to demand from this conference, that otherwise we won't move forward. We will not attract people, because even if we have policies, and I'm sure we can get them together, I'm sure we can have the right policies, but if we haven't got the accountability, the democracy, and the transparency, we will fail. So I just want to end on, what was it? I know. All power to the branches. All power to the branches. All power to the members. And free, free Palestine.
Liverpool is very lucky to have you, Audrey, and thank you for also all of your help in organising tonight's rally. We're truly grateful. I'll keep it in Liverpool and hand over on your left up here. We have a young comrade called Nathan, who is a PCS union member, who's speaking tonight on behalf of the tape workers. So over to you, Nathan.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to start this with saying, please don't expect something that can follow Audrey. So as James said, I'm here speaking on behalf of PCS. Currently, take galleries across the country have gone out on a week-long strike. That will conclude on the 2nd of December. Now, the reason for this strike is that, well, there's quite a few reasons. The official reason, of course, is that they've been offered a below-inflation pay increase, 2% increase, but for the lowest three bands, a 3% increase, which by all terms does amount to an actual pay cut. Thank you. Now, even though this is the official reasoning for the strike, there are other things that tape workers have been put through. There have been over 100 redundancies. I think that number might even be over 200, and job cuts approaching in the name of spending cuts. This is happening while paid directors are receiving remuneration packages, and one director has even received a pay bonus in excess of £28,000. And if this wasn't bad enough, the tape workers have lost so much more than just pay. They've been removed from the civil service pension scheme and forced into a weaker pension plan. Staff canteens have been closed, subsidised meals have been taken away, and even things as basic as tea breaks have been taken off these staff. Thank you again. Now, the thing with what's going on at the Tate is that I think it's symbolic of what's going on all across the country and even the world. Day by day, the working class are getting an even stiffer deal. No one's getting an above inflation pay increase when you really think about it. Because even not counting inflation, the cost of transport, food, anything is going up. People don't have savings anymore. Even 20 years ago under He Who Shall Not Be Named, people were still able to put away savings and live lives outside of work. But now people live to get to work, just so they can get by another day to go to work again. And that's why solidarity is so important, because it's been shown time and time again that when the working class come together, we win. When we unite under trade unions or political organisations or protests, anything like that, we make a splash, we make a noise, and we can win it. And with each win, the next one gets easier, and it gets easier after that. And that's why we need to show solidarity to any striking workers, to any unions, because we are all one. What hurts one hurts another. And maybe it's not your job that's getting the pay cut, but if they think they can get away with it after seeing someone else take one, it's on its way, it's going to come. So if you get the chance, if you are free until any day on December 2nd and you're passing by a Tate Gallery, I'm sure they'd love to see your support on the picket lines. And I'm going to be very, very cheeky here. I'm going to say, if you have anything burning a hole in your pocket that you could maybe throw by way of a donation to Tate Strikers, I'm sure they'll be more than happy with you. Thank you very much, everyone. Solidarity.
Now, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but this is one of the first times that Nathan has actually addressed an audience of this size, which I think is doubly impressive. And I'm going to make a request to our stewards who have already done so much. If there's a bucket we can find for the end for people to put into the strike fund, that'd be terrific. So that's putting that into the ether. Let's see if it can be done. Looking more broadly now at the state of the party, where we go from here, I'd like to invite Democratic Socialists member Max Shanley to speak about their platform for conference.
Hello, everyone. It's lovely to be back in Liverpool. I always remember one of the first times that I came up here was 9 years ago. Zarah and I came to Liverpool together as delegates from Young Labour to fight against attempts by the right wing of the Labour Party to deny members a voice and to empower an unelected party bureaucracy over the membership themselves. And now Zarah and I find ourselves again 9 years later back in Liverpool fighting for member democracy and against a party bureaucracy determined to disempower the membership. It means a lot personally, especially to me, because many of the people that Zarah and I fought alongside, to be quite frank, have degenerated politically. And it is nice to know, after nearly a decade, that Zarah and I are still very much aligned, when so many people that we once fought alongside of have fallen by the wayside. I'd like to talk to you tonight about questions of political democracy within our party. On the one hand, some people might view questions of a constitutional nature to be a bit abstract, that they're not political. But I hate to break it to you, but they are. Questions of political democracy are paramount for the simple reason that without building a democratic party, you never stand a chance of building a democratic society. It's really quite simple. If you can't democratize your own party, how do you ever expect to democratize the state? And if you can't democratize the state, how are you ever going to stand a chance of democratizing the economy? And if you can't democratize the economy, well, I hate to break it to you all, but you can't build socialism. So it's very much easy to view these things in the abstract, but they're expressly political. And unless we focus upon those questions this weekend, we'll never be able to advance our political vision for society. It really is as simple as that. All political parties hitherto in existence in British society and much of the Western world reflect in their structures, practices, and modes of behaviour the type of society that they come from. rather than the one that they aspire to build. You see this all the time. You only need to look at the Labour Party as an example. Very much reflects the structure of the British state, where the leadership is a monarchy that dictates over the membership, who are simply seen as nothing more than taxpayers and subjects, there to be a fan club for parliamentarians. It's time that comes to an end. We've waited too long. We've waited too long for working class people in this country and the world to take control of their own destiny. And that can only be done for a socialist party that feels a lot more like a republic than a monarchy. When we come to these questions at conference at the weekend, there's going to be an awful lot of things that are put in front of us. There's also going to be an awful lot of things that we are denied a discussion upon. Something like 500 people submitted various different amendments to the new evolved founding documents this weekend. Only 100 of them have been allowed to go out for the priority ballot. Some have been dismissed just outright for reasons completely unknown. Others languish in a draft purgatory, which means that ideas that may be very well popular are not going to be able to be discussed. And we must fight that tooth and nail. But what this entire founding process has shown us is that we were promised mass participation, a great democratic event, unlike anything that had ever been seen before. And instead, what we have received is systematic disempowerment. I don't know how many of you went to any of the regional assemblies, but we found ourselves kettled into small groups, told what we could discuss, when we could discuss it, and no opportunity whatsoever to shape the debate ourselves. Well, that opportunity comes this weekend, and I say that we seize it by any means necessary. I'll be fighting for a collective leadership, a party of the whole left, whether you're from the furthest most left wing of social democracy, right the way through to revolutionary socialists. You should be welcome in our party. No witch hunts, no bureaucratic manipulation. The old, no expulsions, most definitely. We need a collective leadership because the age of an internal dictator is dead. We need conference to be sovereign because it is the party's parliament. And unless conference is sovereign, then the membership aren't sovereign. It's the highest governing body of the party, and it needs to have real power and real say over the party's direction. We need the CEC to not have any MPs and not have any councillors in reserve seats. It needs to be elected on a purely national basis that puts politics very much in command. We all know what happens in these elections. Members are really actually denied a voice. Instead, what happens is those who are the most personally popular, who have access to campaign infrastructure, access to the media and so on, are the ones that tend to get put forward to the fore when it comes to the leadership question, not ordinary members, and it's time that that ended. That's all I really have to say. I wish you all the very best. I really do. You need to be very careful this weekend if you're a Sortition delegate, because they're going to be on to you like a hawk. They haven't published them, but some of us have seen the standing orders for the conference. It's a really weird situation where more time is being dedicated to speakers at the top table than actually debating the Constitution, the political statement, the founding documents. In fact, just 1.5 hours, I believe, has been dedicated to the political statement, but an hour has been dedicated at the start of the conference to hear a councillor speech and to hear Jeremy speak. More time has been dedicated to top table speakers, quite frankly, and we need to demand better. I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best. Have a lovely weekend and solidarity.
Thank you very much, Max, for those thoughts. Max is part of the Democratic Socialists group, and we'll hear later on from Mish, who's part of the Democratic Bloc. But before then, we have Mel Mines next, who, like me, is a fellow South Londoner, and she is chair of the RMT's Reparations Conference. So please give it up for Mel.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Come on. Greetings, everyone. Before I go into everything, I just wanted to quickly send out solidarity to everyone in Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti that are still recovering from Hurricane Melissa, Category 5 hurricane that passed through where I grew up in St. Elizabeth and a couple of other Western parishes in Jamaica. Please, if you can still donate, I'll be going there next week, so I'll be doing some stuff on the ground, but you know, we need to keep our eyes on Jamaica and Cuba and Haiti and you know, keep the strength up to hope they recover. So it's an honor to be here tonight and be here with you. So as you know, I'm Mel Mullins. I'm a train driver for London Underground, an RMT rep, community organizer, reparations campaigner. But tonight, I'm just here as your sister in a struggle, standing with you for justice. My grandparents, thank you. My grandparents came from Jamaica to here in 1962. Grandma cleaned trains for British Rail and was an RMT member. Pops was a welder for Banham Security Company. And my mum spent 30 years in the DWP. She was a member of the PCS. Every generation of my family are trade unionists. Zarah, sister to sister, need you to hear me, right? Because I have great hopes for what we're starting here and great hopes for everything that we are going to go forward with. The working class is hurting. People are struggling to pay our bills, raise families, to believe in a better tomorrow. And every time workers take action, we hear the same lie. There's no money. No money for wages, no money for services, no money for pensions, but always money for CEOs' pay rise, dividends, and consultants. Is that fair? We're told to blame each other, migrants, communities of color, instead of the real causes: economic insecurity, government mismanagement, austerity, and endless wars. The right wing misdiagnose and do all this crap to distract us. Nigel Farage, Reform, offer nothing but misinformation. They tell people their wages are low because migrants came, that the NHS waiting lists are long because refugees exist, that your pain has a convenient scapegoat. Well, they say hurt people, so I guess it's okay, right? When you misdiagnose the problem and misdirect the anger. The right-wing agenda doesn't build homes or services. It protects the wealthy and divides the rest of us. Is that fair? And Labour, still repeating old mistakes. Labour has welcomed communities like mine, then told us to go back once we were settled. Ask the RMT members who TfL have discriminatorily, through immigration policies under Sadiq Khan, told that even though they came here legitimately and were settled here, now they're going to have to go home. Is that fair? The British dream has been stolen. 50 years ago, a home costs maybe 3 times the average salary. Today, it's about 6, and you still need the bank of mum and dad if you're so blessed. That insecurity, the inability to build a life, is the poison in our society, not migrants and not working people, but an economic system that profits from precarity. Men, I see your pain too. Your dignity isn't being stolen by women or LGBTQ plus siblings. It's being stolen by an economy that denies your stability, then tells you to blame the nearest target. Andrew Tate says reclaim masculinity by dominating women, but you can't restore dignity by attacking others. That's another misdiagnosis. Our children are being failed. School exclusions are rising, especially for Black children, working class children, and children with special needs. Instead of support, they get punished. Instead of safety, they get criminalized. Mental health services are cut to the bone. Young people wait months, sometimes years for help. This isn't inevitable. It's a political choice and another misdiagnosis. Is that fair? Reparations, not a handout, a debt owed. For too long, the message to people like me has been, shut up and be British. But how, when herstory is unpaid? The Commonwealth isn't Commonwealth, is it? It's common theft. And most people don't know, British taxpayers finished paying off enslavement compensation to those enslavers in 2015. 17 billion in today's money, which represented 40% of the economy back then. We want that money back, every penny. And we need an economic vision. The right profits from division. The left is trapped in fiscal rules written by our opponents. We need courage to imagine a different economy, public ownership, taxing wealth, a just transition, jobs in green industries, investment in services, ending austerity, understanding that a sovereign nation can fund what its people need. If the government can fund war, it can fund welfare. Climate change is the biggest threat to our communities, and the lie that we can't afford to act is another misdiagnosis. Our young people are drowning in debt, locked out of housing, locked out of education, locked out of security. Our communities face rising taxes, failing services, disgraceful housing, and over-policing. Hard work should mean you can live well. Dreaming big shouldn't start with debt. It's time to end the misdiagnosis. Let us unite working class on truth, not division. Let us reject misinformation. Let us reject racism, equality, war, and austerity. And together, let us build a Britain where the dream is fair, affordable, and possible for every one of us. Solidarity.
Thank you, Mel. We're halfway through this evening's panel of speakers. And in my capacity as chair, I now will be reading out a brief message from Jeremy Corbyn, who was invited to speak this evening but has sent a message. Jeremy says, "Welcome to Liverpool. This city is the heart of working class unity, spirit, and solidarity. What better place to host the democratic founding conference of your party? We are here to challenge the appalling levels of poverty and inequality which waste so much human creativity and potential. We need to build a more sustainable world, a more equal world, and above all, a world of peace. Every penny spent on weapons is money that could have been spent lifting children out of poverty, repairing our NHS, or protecting our planet. We will never scapegoat refugees for the problems of society. Instead, we will tackle the real causes of the crises facing us all, an unequal economic system that concentrates wealth in the hands of the few. I want your party to be just that, your party. I want you to be involved in everything we do so that we can offer a real alternative to our broken Westminster model. Your party will not only be accountable to the community, it must be part and parcel of the community. Every member brings something new to the table, a story, a demand, and a desire for real change. The diversity of our movement strengthens our unity of purpose to redistribute wealth and power so that we can build an inclusive society for all. This is our chance to do something special, to build a mass, democratic, socialist party in Britain that can challenge for power. Let's get this party started." I'm now going to move on to Councillor Dan Hutchison, who is a councillor in Glasgow. He was awarded Young Councillor of the Year a few years back and was elected as a Scottish Green, but has defected to your party. So a very warm welcome. Lovely to have you with us.
Thanks very much, James, and good evening, comrades. Yeah, as you will have seen on the kind of promotion for tonight, I am not Francis Curran. As James said, my name's Dan. I'm a councillor in Glasgow, and I'll be Francis's understudy for the evening while she's still stuck back in Scotland. In Glasgow, I represent Govan, a town now within the city boundaries of Glasgow, but one with one of the most radical histories of any communities on this island. From the rent strikes that were led by Mary Barber during the First World War, it being one of the bases of John Maclean, who was dubbed one of Lenin's men in Britain, in the centre of the Red Clydeside and the shipyard strikes of the 1970s. It is now a town that's excited at the prospect that thousands of socialists have joined together this weekend here in Liverpool to form a party for us and by us. A party that will put our foot down on the neck of the greedy instead of licking their boots like the establishment parties. A party determined to put an end to the managed decline of our society, our public services and our health services. A party that says no to genocide, no to the racism of reform, and no to the targeting of trans comrades for a culture war designed to divide our revolt. Of course, politics in Scotland is slightly different, and I know you will not want to hear my 1 hour sermon on how the SNP have ruined Scotland, so I'll save that for another time. But what I do want you to hear is a conversation that we had in Scotland about 11 years ago around our first independence referendum. Many politicians across Scotland, England, and Wales masqueraded as frankly giving a shit about the working class in Scotland for once. They told us that the struggle of the poor in Scotland is the same across these islands, that leaving the UK would be a betrayal of our class. Socialists knew their game, though. We were bounded together to support autonomy for ordinary people, wherever they happen to live. We saw that in areas of Scotland that did vote for independence, places like Glasgow, Dundee, Western Bartonshire, North Lanarkshire, working class, deindustrialised communities that can see a politician lying a mile off. We believe, or I believe, that, and hopefully we do, that decisions that affect Scotland should be made in Scotland. The same as decisions that are made in Liverpool should be made by those of you who live here in Liverpool. And decisions made in communities around the UK should be made by those of you who actually live there. Not by power-hungry, self-serving goons in Whitehall. And that's what I'm excited about. In 30 years' time, when the retirement age has fallen enough to let me retire at 60, I'm going to look back very fondly on this weekend and know that this is where we started to fix society. The tide is already changing, but this time it's changing in our favour. Today, in my ward, the hotel workers at the Village Hotel are out on strike for the second time this year. A fantastic group of workers with an average age of 19 have already brought their employer to their knees this year, winning a massive victory. Just back in the summer. But now they're out again. They're demanding a wage that they can actually live on, trade union recognition, and safe transport home from work. Yesterday, I got an email from the operations manager of Village Hotels, telling me how sad it was that the main workers won't be working this weekend. Little did she realise that I worked behind that very same bar 7 years ago, and it was still a shit place to work then. The difference is, though, 7 years ago, we did not have an organised workforce in hospitality in Glasgow. We had precarious workers suffering through poor pay, poor conditions, and really nowhere to go. That's not the case now. These workers, they know their power. They don't like their naive operations manager, who I'm told is paid £1 million a year. What would you do with that? She thinks that politicians hold the power. But the workers, they know they're in charge. They can withdraw their labour and hurt the evil hedge fund Blackstone that owns their workplace and profits from the genocide in Gaza. Comrades, this is our chance for a real shot to fix our society. Ensure that power is held by workers and communities, not with the rich and greedy. We do it by working together with our core principles, standing against greed. Be that by right-wing politicians like Farage, against corporate interests that buy off our politicians, or against those who think that being a landlord is a job. We do it by working together, reaching hands across barricades with community groups, trade unions, and those in other like-minded political parties, not by cutting them off before they have a democratic decision about dual membership. So here's a victory to us, to the working class, and especially tonight, a victory to the village workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, and double thanks from the chair for sticking to 5 minutes. Our next speaker is a former NEC member within Labour. Oh, that's making a rather nasty noise, sorry. Thank you, sorry. Former NEC member, but has seen the light, if you like, and is now a leading member of the Democratic Bloc. Mish Rahman will now take to the podium.
Thank you, James. It's not as if I've just discovered the Democratic Bloc and democracy. I've spent the last 5 years in Labour challenging Keir Starmer and his undemocratic practices, challenging his purge, challenging his prescriptions of organizations. And it brings me to question and to ask you, who is afraid of democracy? Who fears ordinary people getting organized? Because Mamdani, after his victory in New York, said it. We won because we insisted that politics will be no longer something done to us. It is something that we do. And the lesson is clear. Don't be afraid of democracy. Never be afraid of it. Embrace it and get organized. Because it's real power that is scared of democracy. That's money power, class power, and ruling class power. Because democracy threatens them at its core. But it seems there's another kind of power that fears democracy too, and that's entrenched power, stitched up power, and it's our right to run things power, and that mindset. And that just doesn't live on the right. Sometimes it creeps into our spaces as well. Tomorrow has to be a moment of energy, imagination, and shared purpose. But yet, let's also be honest. Some things are missing. I'm going to be missing. I didn't get a sortition, but looks like parts of the revolutionary left are going to be missing today. Now, I was banned by Sultana, and now I'm banned by sortition too, but look, I'm joking. It's actually something seriously bigger than that. Because if you look at it behind all the muddled timetables, seeming disorganization, 13,000 delegates skittled down to 2,000, today, some unnamed, unelected, faceless bureaucrats have, on the eve of conference, taking lessons from seemingly our opponents in Labour and the right, have conducted a witch hunt. Dual membership should be at debate at conference. Instead, some people have decided it's acceptable already. So I'm calling all of you who have been sortitioned to vote on an amendment that rules out a ban on dual membership. Any factional attempt to exclude any part of the left just by a flick of a pen can't be tolerated in any democratic socialist party. I voted against Starmer's prescriptions. I won't tolerate your party prescriptions either. A stage meant for tomorrow cannot be run with the habits of yesterday. These aren't trivial details. They reveal a deeper problem that we have to change, and we have to refuse this ingrained culture that the way we do things must stay, it's our way or the highway. Look, people out there are facing an uncertain future. The far right is growing. Tommy Robinson is mobilizing hundreds of thousands, and Farage is probably heading to number 10. And when people look to the left, too often they see silence, confusion, or division, and we're not offering real action. In fact, sometimes we're harming ourselves and letting the movement down. And if you aren't clear about what I'm talking about, I'll spell it out in the clearest language. I'm talking about constant briefings against your own people in the billionaire-owned press, against the same billionaire-owned press which supports and protects the billionaire class that we're fighting against. They're the ones who point at migrants, at disabled people, at poor people, at trans people, while protecting their own class. You don't do the movement any favours by talking to their billionaire press. It's even more disgraceful when you haven't even guts to put your name to it. At the same time, we've got a Labour government doing the work of the far right, creating racist policies, and instead of providing a principled centre-left leadership, they're sending out different politicians wearing the same genocide bob cut, selling out every value that they once claimed to stand for. Labour aren't left-wing anymore. They're as repugnant as Tories and Reform. So what people need are competence, courage, and imagination, and that's what your party has to provide. Starting tonight, we cannot continue like this. Not if we want to serve the people of this country, not if we believe that public life should be more than just the same old networks who are unwilling to make space for new people and new talent. Because our movement needs more. It needs generational change. It needs new imagination, not just new faces, new thinking, not the same people just moving around. Zarah, Jeremy, anybody who wants to take leadership, leadership isn't vibes. Leadership is ideas, it's vision. It's telling us how clearly the movement could be run, but also bringing people along. And the answer always must be, the you, the members, are bringing decision making as close to everybody as possible. I have to end, my time is running up. But look, the world is dying, Gramsci said, and the new world struggles to be born. So we need these new leaders, unafraid of the world as it is, and unafraid of the world that is coming. Today has to be a reset. Angela Davis said, I am no longer accepting the things that cannot change. I'm changing the things that I cannot accept. The future belongs to those people prepared to shape it. And we are here to change the things we cannot accept. So let tomorrow be that day. Thank you, comrades.
Wow. Rousing indeed. Thank you, Mish. And I think it's very apt that we move on to our next speaker in light of today's events, the National Secretary of the Socialist Workers' Party, Lewis Nielsen.
Look, before I start, I just want to check, are there any standing orders for this meeting today? And any emergency motions? Look, it's been a bumpy ride. And today's news makes it a bit bumpier, to be honest. But when I look around this room, and I see it standing room only, when I think about the 30+ meetings that Zarah's done around the country, and I've had the pleasure of doing some of them, and then I think it was only 4 months ago that 800,000 people signed up to this project, I'm filled with the possibility of hope for the first time in a long, long time, to be honest. And the truth is that for too long, the main politics in Britain has been the politics of despair. And a lot of that is down to one man, and his name is Nigel Farage. He's a private schoolboy, he's a former stockbroker, he's a millionaire, he went to one of the poshest private schools in Britain, and he tries to say he's a man of the people. And to be honest, the press let him get away with it too easy when you look at his background. And there's lots of things you can say about Farage. He's a racist, he's a bigot, he's a transphobe, but probably his biggest crime, he thinks it's okay to go out wearing pink chinos and loafers and say you're a man of the people. But the truth is, we can laugh, but it's not a joke anymore with Farage. He's headed for Downing Street. And Tommy Robinson, Britain's leading fascist, got 150,000 people out 2 months ago. And when we look at it, when we look at Farage, who's his biggest recruiting agent? Keir Starmer. I saw the other day that Starmer isn't just the most unpopular Prime Minister on record. Starmer has lower levels of popularity than Prince Andrew. Andrew Mountbatten. And I know Zarah will have some lines about Andrew Mountbatten in her speech. But Labour, through pushing austerity, is paving the way. But they're also doing it because they're pushing racism. When I look at Shabana Mahmood's speech, when I see her tearing up the rights of refugees to stay, when I see her demonising migrants, when I see a Labour Home Secretary saying they are going to seize jewellery from refugees and migrants at the border, I think it is a disgrace for a Labour Home Secretary to make that speech. So the stakes are incredibly high. And I want to argue that despite the bumpy ride, I want to argue that we can make this thing work. I want to argue that we can turn your party into a force that can win. And I want to say how I think we should do that. Number one, the public spats and the statements on social media have to stop, and they have to stop now. The kind of statements that were put out before Zarah went on Question Time have no place in our movement. But the second thing I want to say is we need more democracy, not less. The problem in your party is that too much of it has been controlled by a clique at the top, and there hasn't been enough democracy given to the branches around the country, the assemblies, the mass meetings. And while I'm on the question of democracy, today, myself and some of my comrades received a letter, an email, saying that we were expelled from your party. Must be a record to be expelled from an organisation which hasn't been fully formed before the conference has even started. And we expelled because I'm a member of the Socialist Workers' Party. And I have a confession to make. There is a group in your party that is trying to take it over, that has an agenda, that is undemocratic, and it's the clique of the people running it at the top. They're the people who are ruining your party. They're the people who are to blame. And therefore, what our vision is that this weekend has to be a turning point. Because when I say there needs to be more democracy, there's a debate on what kind of party is it? Is it a party that's acceptable to landlords? Or is it a party that fights for tenants' unions, tenants' rights, capping the rent and affordable homes? Is it a party? Is it a party that, faced with the avalanche of transphobia, says it can't decide? Or does it stand loud and proud and say we stand with trans people? And is it a party? Is it a party faced with the rise of racism, with the far right at their strongest level since the 1930s? Is it a party that ducks the question of racism, or are we going to say that refugees and migrants are welcome in Britain? And at the heart of that debate, and I'll finish on this, at the heart of that debate is what kind of party is it? We don't need a Labour Mark II. We don't need more edicts from the top. We need a democratic, a socialist, an insurgent force that builds in communities up and down this country. So wouldn't it be good if your party, rather than voting through cuts and attacks on workers, stood with PCS workers in Liverpool and stood on a picket line with them? Wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be good that if your party councillors and MPs, rather than being afraid of being smeared as anti-Semitic or supporters of terrorists, wouldn't it be good if they joined some of the protests for Palestine action and against the ban? And wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't it be better if the next time Tommy Robinson and his thugs march in London, your party says it's going to mobilise the 800,000 people and turn them into an anti-fascist army to stop them? That's our vision. That's our vision. That's our vision. And that's the vision that got 800,000 people to join it. Our job is to give a lead. Malcolm X said, we're not outnumbered, we're out-organised. We need a leadership in your party. I'm so glad, and I hope that Zarah's part of it, and I'll be supporting her all the way, but the leadership is in this room. You're the leadership. Get organised. Let's fight to change the world.
Thank you, Lewis. There's a growing open letter online condemning the expulsion of those. And so anyone in the room who wishes to add their name, I'd encourage them to do so. We're going to move on now to Councillor Grace Lewis from Coventry City Council in Zarah's home constituency. Grace, the floor is yours. Thank you very much indeed.
Inequality is visible all around. We see it every day. From the families who choose between heating and eating, the young people who were promised a world-class education, who are now unable to access decent jobs whilst being saddled with debt, and pensioners who can't afford the bare essentials. As we know, this is a symptom of a system which rewards wealth and punishes the poor, a system which sole aim is to reserve privilege and the status quo and not to challenge it, one that puts profit and the bottom line before people. Across the country, 7 million people have gone without essentials in the last 6 months, and 4.5 million are behind on household bills. This is not bad luck, rather a direct result of an economy which is rigged in favour of a few, where working class communities shoulder the costs of decisions made by institutions and politicians far from their lived realities. Public spending has not declined under austerity, it has been redirected. Redirected towards corporate bailouts, private contracts and handouts to the wealthiest, billions poured into the pockets of energy giants and private landlords, whilst the rest of us are told to accept the decline as inevitable. The government is making a political choice to underfund councils such as Coventry, where I'm elected, just as the Labour-led council is making political choice to make cuts to the voluntary sector services, local libraries and to strike break in Birmingham. But whilst Westminster and the establishment deliberates, seeking to make liberal concessions in the name of preserving capital, we can organise, we can start to redistribute the power to those who are powerless, and give voice to the voiceless, work to elevate political consciousness right here in our communities across the country. Because real change doesn't only come from above, it's always been fought for from below. It's people who built this country, who keep it running, who have the power to transform it. Working people, migrant communities, those written off, shut out and ignored. We need a mass party which is explicitly socialist and anti-imperialist, one that has class politics at its core, a party against genocide and transphobia. No one said setting up a new political party would be easy, and it definitely has not been smooth sailing. But those who have signed up know that it is necessary. We all are attempting to do something which has not been achieved in British history in over a century, to set up a genuine working class party to challenge the establishment. It is going to be a long-term project, and despite the difficulties, I still believe it remains the best chance in my lifetime of seeing a socialist party in government. We should not run at the first sight of struggle. Many in this room have waited a long time for this, and it's still worth fighting for. And the other 800,000 people are still out there just waiting to be convinced. So what can we do? We hold those in power, whoever they may be, I'm not sure a lot of us know, to account. We ensure that whatever MPs and councillors we have represent explicitly our politics. And yes, that means no landlords and no transphobes. We put pressure on conference this weekend to make it as democratic as possible, speaking up when it's not and working to ensure every member gets a voice and the ability to shape our party's future. At this point, it's worth recognising how inaccessible this conference has been to many, either financially or through the accessibility needs which weren't met or accommodated. So when opportunities arise this weekend, put your ideas forward, put yourselves forward for positions, elections and leadership roles in the future, because this is our party and it needs to be built from the ground up. We all have work to do, because right now should not only be about building something which lasts, but something rooted in our communities and in the struggles of working people. Zarah has been fighting from the start to make sure that members can shape what the party becomes, but that fight has not been won. We all need to join and lead the fight here in Liverpool this weekend and create a party which prioritises fights for collective leadership, a people's whip, an executive that is member-led, not led by MPs, and autonomy for your party Wales and Scotland. We cannot wait for somebody else to do it for us. The Labour Party won't, and Reform certainly won't. It's up to us to create a political force that cannot be bought or silenced, and that fight has already started. Once this weekend is over, it means we continue organising in tenants' unions, workplaces and in local campaigns, connecting the dots between climate emergency, the cost of living and war, because they're all products of the same rotten system. We also need to build the confidence of people in our communities that we are able to take the power back. That means having difficult conversations with those closest to us, our families, neighbours and colleagues, those who have never voted or engaged in politics, those who are susceptible to the rise of reform and misinformation of our media class peddles. And when we do engage people in our movement and bring them to meetings, we should ensure we give them a chance to speak, share their ideas and own experiences, whilst also creating spaces to gently challenge when necessary. No one knows inequality and injustice better than those living through it, and we who have experienced it always have more in common than what divides us. It's our responsibility to educate each other, learn together as we seek to do politics differently. The establishment may have the money, the media and the power, but we have something stronger, each other. And when working people stand together with courage and conviction, no system built on greed can ever hold us down. Thank you. Solidarity.
Thank you very much indeed, Grace. Now we have one more speaker before Zarah. Before I introduce them, just to give you a run through of what will happen after Zarah speaks, we'll take a few questions from members of the press who are here, but then there'll be a roving mic as well for some questions from you in the audience. So do stay with us. We've got two more speakers. Mustafa is next up from the Palestinian Youth Movement. We're particularly pleased to have him with us this evening.
Thank you. Comrades, Gaza has illuminated all. In fighting at the sharpest edge of imperialism, it has provided the methods to confront the enemy at home and abroad. And perhaps, most of all, for us here today, it has illuminated the necessity of building a mass party for socialism in Britain. For over 2 years, we have witnessed a relentless massacre of our people by weapons manufactured, delivered, and defended by British and Western powers. To justify the slaughter of innocents, the enemies of working people everywhere have turned truth into a battlefield, deploying a global media apparatus to their ends. Gaza has exposed how lies saturate our lives and showed us that we must defend truth at all costs. It has demonstrated there is no rule-based order or liberal democracy when imperialism and capitalism are confronted. In the face of every law broken by Israel, justice becomes inoperable. At home, to protect the Zionist project, our civil liberties have been eroded and our lives surveilled. Comrades, the Zionist project is backed, funded, supplied, and justified by Britain, precisely because British elites are committed to imperialism and capital. Gaza has revealed this alignment most clearly when no matter the will of the British people, no matter how loudly they protested, politicians, bought and already paid for, refused to heed their call. Gaza makes the sham of our democracy and rule of law most clear. As we have witnessed, the Zionist movement is the principal ally of the state and far right in their alliance against socialism in this country. Whether it's McSweeney, Tice, or Robinson, the Zionist movement has been instrumental in destroying the hope of millions of working people by fighting socialist projects. Projects like the one we are trying to build together here, despite any obstacles. The very same lies told by the media, the very same algorithm deployed to censor our outrage and action are directed to the support and popularization of fascism here in Britain, to the defense of austerity and capital, and to our collective marginalization. Zionism provides the methods, technology, finance, and media cover to purge the left from British politics. It cheerleads the erosion of our right to speak, assemble, and protest a genocide while strengthening the forces of fascism here in Britain. Comrades, the British working class and this party, both for their own survival and as a commitment to international struggle, must fight Zionism as it fights fascism, for they are one and the very same. We must build a fighting anti-imperialist and anti-Zionist mass party that takes lessons from the sacrifice of Gaza. There could be no room for failure here. Therefore, to ensure the safety and vitality of the party we are building together, the PYM proposes that you, here, this weekend in Liverpool, engage and agitate for an anti-Zionist party, not just as a moral or political principle, but in organizational mechanisms and action. We propose that you engage with, argue for, and struggle to secure an anti-Zionist socialist party. Whether it is in the conference or any other future assembly, we must secure the following mechanisms. 1. Written commitments by all party candidates to the basic principles of Palestinian liberation and anti-Zionism. There can be no collusion, direct or indirect, with Zionist lobby groups or organizations. There can be no space in the party for anyone with any connections to the Israeli government or in a Zionist lobby. 2. Democratic mechanisms for the deselection and expulsion of candidates who are found to be in substantial disagreement with these basic principles. And 3, we hold that the party of the grassroots must materially take up and support campaigns originating from the masses. Whether it's in our councils, courts, trade unions, educational institutions, or workplaces, we must support and propel all actions that confront Zionism and the will of the British working class. That is, we must secure an organizational strategy that adopts local campaigning as a method to engage with our communities, and one of which leverages party infrastructure to struggle day to day for our causes. Whether it's anti-imperialism, the defense of minority communities, or the confrontation of endless austerity, we cannot succeed unless our party is continually in the streets and in people's lives. Comrades, we propose you support every amendment intervention that guarantees that the will of the working class is enacted. Thank you, Free Palestine, and glory to our martyrs.
Thank you, Mustafa, for those very moving words. I want to, before we introduce Zarah, for those who weren't here at the start, just remind you that there's this leaflet that was placed on most chairs at the start of the evening, but if you haven't had one, you can pick one up as you leave. Crucially, on the back, there's a QR code to Zarah's WhatsApp channel, and that will feature news, events, announcements, vote steers throughout the conference with a view to ensuring maximum member democracy. This was the only piece of literature that we put on the chairs. It's the only piece of literature that Zarah specifically has endorsed for this evening. And I'll leave it there, I think. There is a bucket at the back of the room as well. There's 2 buckets, in fact, thanks to our stewards, for those who wish to donate to the strike fund as well as you're leaving. So without further ado, colleagues, I hand over to MP for Coventry South, Zarah Sultana.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What a huge turnout. Turns out that the left is back. We absolutely love to see it. I'm so honoured to be on this amazing panel. Thank you to everyone who's taken time out to be here. Thank you to packing out this room. We gather on the eve of a historic founding conference at a moment of profound crisis, but also profound opportunity. Because everyone in this room knows what's wrong with Britain, and everyone outside of this room knows what's wrong with Britain too. Nothing works and nothing gets better because this country is rigged to serve the rich and powerful who bought and paid for it. And we plan on beating them before they lead us into fascism to protect their own wealth and power. Our diagnosis is pretty simple. In the last 20 years, mega donations to political parties from the super rich haven't just doubled, they haven't just tripled, they have gone up sevenfold. When prices go up during your weekly shop, supermarket bosses are pocketing those profits and buying politicians. When your rents soar, landlords use your cash to lobby MPs so their interests are protected. When the seas rise and our towns flood, energy bosses buy another private jet while we all pay the price. The billionaires buy up newspapers, social media platforms, TV channels to gaslight us into blaming our neighbours for the mess. They want you angry, not at them. And our message to our friends and our neighbours is, if you want to know why you're depressed, why everything keeps getting worse, know that the people who control your food, your home, your energy and your media are sending billions of your hard-earned money to the Cayman Islands. And we've got three parties, Labour, the Conservatives and Reform, all sewn up. So you work harder, for longer, for less. While politicians take money from poor kids and pensioners, everything gets harder, so offshore bank accounts get fatter. It is a total disgrace. The one thing all of these old parties will never say is that there is enough room here for everyone, except for the rentiers who own Britain and charge us just for living here. They are the real parasites, and they should be taken down and defeated by us. So let's look at this week's budget. The Resolution Foundation found that everyone except the richest 10% will see their income tax and national insurance rise. Everyone will feel that pinch except the super rich. The people whose wealth has skyrocketed for decades while the rest of us have suffered. And why is that? The answer is political cowardice. A Labour government that pushes this way and that way with the political winds doesn't have the political courage and will to confront the parasites that own Britain. But we are here to fight back. We are here to break up a system that humiliates our disabled friends and neighbours and deprives them of the cash that they need while funneling an extra £11 billion a year to arms companies. That's right, Keir Starmer wants to give an extra £11 billion in defence every year, and all the old parties back it. That's money into the pockets of shareholders for the merchants of death after 2 years where we have witnessed a live stream genocide, where our money has funded daily spy flights over the ruins of Gaza, where this government is complicit in genocide and belongs in the docks of The Hague. This Labour government is just as happy at oppressing people at home as it is abroad. It isn't a coincidence. You see, the politicians that attack disabled people here in Liverpool and demonise desperate people arriving on small boats are the same people who blow up our world with war, genocide and occupation. But we know this fundamental truth. The real enemy of the working class travels by private jet, not migrant dinghy. So it's not about stopping the boats, it's about stopping the private jets. Ordinary human beings suffer everywhere, so the mighty and the powerful can sleep in their silk sheets in their blood-soaked mansions. And as socialists, we stand with the oppressed everywhere, from Sudan to Congo to Palestine. And let me say proudly and loudly, I am a proud anti-Zionist, and if we fight for it, your party will be an anti-Zionist party. That means we will sever all diplomatic relations with the genocidal apartheid state of Israel. We will expel the ambassador. We will shut down the embassy. And we will stand with the Palestinian people until every inch of their land is free. A single democratic state from the river to the sea with equal rights for all. And we will ensure that there is a day of reckoning for all of those who have enabled genocide. The real terrorists we know are the Israeli government and our government, and we will not rest until they are held to account in The Hague. And the reason we care so deeply about Palestine is because we know that the starvation and annihilation of a people in distant lands shows how our political class would treat all of us if they thought they could get away with it. The people running this country want you to believe that every refugee is a rapist while they grab £12 million of taxpayers' money to protect a parasite named Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who has never seen the inside of a cell or a courtroom, because what matters to the ruling class is not the safety of women and girls, it's the peace and pleasure of the super powerful. And what a sick society we live in, when the rich and the powerful bend over backwards to defend the royal family, including Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, close friends with the notorious paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. That's our money that provided him housing, that's our money that defended him in court, and that's our money that put food on his table. Well, not anymore. We shouldn't just abolish Andrew's titles, we should abolish the monarchy itself. The truth is, we have a lot of fake populists in our country who rail against every elite until someone mentions a wealth tax. Suddenly, they all go quiet. Just look at Reform's donors. They are bought and paid for by the parasites. But the real scandal is that this Labour government is mimicking them. When Farage says kick an immigrant, Starmer replies, how hard? And he shamefully uses the same fascistic language as Enoch Powell, calling us an island of strangers. Shame on him and every Labour politician that went and defended him. We are not an island of strangers. We are an island that is suffering, and we see politicians constantly shifting the blame from the people who actually have all the wealth and power. Our Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is talking about stealing jewellery from refugees. And our politics desperately needs an organised working class that fights back and says that if you come for any of us, if you come for the disabled among us, the pensioners among us, the immigrants among us, the queer and trans among us, if you come for any of us, you will have to fight all of us. Because we know an attack on one is an attack on all. And yes, we are getting organised. A politics that doesn't centre the most marginalised isn't worthy of the name socialism. That means saying loudly and unequivocally, refugees are welcome here and trans rights are human rights. The The rise in transphobia we are seeing is deliberate. It is being stoked as part of a wider culture war designed to divide us. And just like with Muslims, just like with migrants, just like with disabled people, the goal is always the same. Find a scapegoat and distract people from who really holds the power. It is an old tactic of the ruling class, divide and rule, and our movement has to say, we will not play your game. We stand with trans people, with migrants, with Muslims, with disabled people. We stand with the most marginalised. And I stand before you as a proud child of Lozells in Birmingham. My grandparents came here to rebuild this country after Britain's rulers looted their homeland. We are here, as Sivan London said, because you were there. I grew up being told by politicians and police officers that the area I grew up in was suspicious or worthless because we committed 2 offences as soon as we were born. We were Muslim and we were working class, and I will never apologise for either. Politicians want us divided, but what I've seen from picket lines to Palestine is a politics that says every human being everywhere has the right to live in freedom. And this time, comrades, we are going to win. I really mean that. This rot is not irreversible. Everyone knows that this government is weak, directionless, and lacking in any vision. We have forced this Labour government into humiliating climb downs on the 2-child benefit cap and winter fuel payments. I was proud to vote against them. I was proud to have the whip suspended. I would do it in a heartbeat over and over again. But we are just getting started. The stakes are so high. The old is dying, and if the new cannot be born, this will be the time of monsters. Centrist politicians presiding over decline and decay, pushing people's rage towards the far right. But from New York, in the heart of empire, a new politics emerges. Zohran Mamdani, unapologetically socialist, unapologetically Muslim, unapologetically immigrant, built a campaign that proved what is possible when the working class unites. People who look differently, who pray differently, who love differently, but all want a life of dignity where people and planet thrive. If we don't win this global fight, decay will give way to fascism, and people who look like me will be imprisoned in tents and deported to war zones, while everyone gets poorer except the hedge fund managers who donate to Labour, the Conservatives, and Reform. But if we win, we will hand over a world renewed for future generations. And so I've been thinking about those stakes, and it is a huge responsibility all of us carry. You might have noticed a few hiccups in this process. Some of that has been my fault, and for that I am sorry. But I want you to know that my intention has always been to ensure that this party is led by you, the members, and not MPs. It has not been about personalities. It has been deeply ideological about who holds the power in this party, and it has to be the members, and that is what I will continue to fight for. The truth is, none of us have set up a new party before. We've never designed its structures from scratch, and that process has been messy. But I would never forgive myself for weakening the party that we desperately need. And so, yes, we do have to get better at working with each other. We have to ensure that the cure against all culture of backroom deals is people power. And that's why I've been fighting for maximum member democracy. I did not leave the Labour Party. You did not leave the Labour Party to create another Labour Party. And that means we cannot replicate its worst elements. So I say this bluntly, we will not tolerate a culture of leaks to right-wing journalists. We will not tolerate legal threats, bullying, intimidation, smears, and sabotage. We say this as a movement, this stops now. And that's why I'm supporting calls for a collective leadership of this new party, because I care. Because I care about the movements that I have come from, the causes I speak up for, and the people I came into politics to fight for. And that is our aim, a party led by its members, for its members, by its members. And I know that I speak for everyone in this room when I say, I don't want a party of witch hunts, stitch-ups, and psychodramas. I want to work with every socialist in a spirit of comradeship and equality. And I want the working class to control this party as they should one day control the world. We know that the control of our economy must be taken away from parasitical profiteers and into the hands of workers who actually generate our collective wealth. We are not here for tweaks to a broken system. We are not here just to lower a few bills and sprinkle a wealth tax. We are here for the fundamental transformation of society to replace capitalism with socialism. And that means democracy in every workplace, every community, every corner of life. So yes, we will reverse the failed experiments of Thatcherism by taking water, energy, railways, transport and telecommunications back into public ownership. But that cannot be the limit of our ambition. We must seek new horizons, banks, food production, construction, and so much more, because we know that the working class can run society better than the billionaires, the profiteers, and the war criminals who rule over us today. People used to say a week was a long time in politics. This time, it feels like things can change in a day or an hour. And whatever difficulties we've had in launching this party, that will not matter from today, from now, when we face the working class in all of its diversity and say with a unified voice, something that all capitalist politicians have given up on saying, that in the richest, sixth richest country in the world, life can be better. You can breathe clean air, you can eat good food, you can live in warm homes, you can spend less time working and more time with your loved ones, and you can look at your neighbors and know that they're okay too, unless they happen to be billionaires. So finally, on this eve of conference, we as a country, as a people, face a stark choice. It is socialism or barbarism, and we choose socialism every single time. And I've spoken at over 32 events over the past few weeks, and I always end with one of my favorite quotes from Arundhati Roy, who says, "Another world is not only possible, she is on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing." Solidarity, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zarah. We're going to take some questions now. Before we take questions from the floor, we're going to take a few journalists first, if that's okay. I'm first going to... I have to walk with the roving mic, forgive me. We only have one of them. I'm first going to come to the BBC, if I may.
Thank you. Since the launch of this party, there's been splits over policy, culture, money, and it now sounds like splits around the founding of the conference. How do you bring the party together?
I think, as you'll know, on the left, as socialists, we will always disagree. What we need is a culture that allows that to happen in a healthy way. We do not want a culture where people are expelled for saying something that the leadership disagrees with. And what you see in this room is people who probably will agree on 9 out of 10 things, and that's what we are here to do, unify the left. Yes, there have been some disagreements, but once we have our founding conference, once we establish the structures, once we pass motions, we will go out to the country, knock on millions of doors, organize campaigns, stand on picket lines, defend the most marginalized, and win power. That's what we are all here for. And so, yes, we will disagree, and that needs to be done in a healthy way. Thank you.
Thank you. Forgive me, I don't recognise some of the other names. Faye from Sky News?
Hi, Zara. You said just then that you favour the collective leadership model, but if members voted for the single leadership model and Jeremy Corbyn was to win a potential future leadership contest, would you stay in your party led by him?
Absolutely. That is the beauty of being a Democrat. It's whatever the members decide. And I openly supported collective leaderships, but some nameless, faceless bureaucrat has decided that is not an option for members to vote on. And so if members choose sole leader, I have said I would throw my hat in the ring, but I strongly urge everyone to vote for a collective leadership, because that is what will strengthen this movement and allow us to really build solidarity amongst all communities. Thank you.
Is Stephen from Novara here?
Hi, Zarah. Look, I think everybody here understands that there's a big battle ahead this weekend for, what this party is going to be. But I wanted to ask you a question which maybe goes to the wider electorate and the wider country. At some point, your party is going to have to meet with them, come out to them. When would you like that to be? And what would be the top 3 policies that you would take to the country whenever that is?
Thank you. I would like people to be knocking on doors right now. Obviously, you're here, that's important. But as soon as we get structures, as soon as branches have been formalized, I believe that branches have 50% of membership subs and access to data so they can go out, organize, and build power. Before I got elected, I was a community organizer, and that meant knocking on doors in Wolverhampton, Halezone, and Stourbridge and listening to people. And there's a lot of anger in our communities, and people deserve the right to be listened to. And yes, we might disagree with them, but we have to listen to people. We have to identify what they're angry about. And sometimes we'll have to correct them, especially if they're blaming the wrong people for the source of their problems, and then build campaigns. It's what we did in the West Midlands. We found GP surgeries on the brink of closure. We saw bus routes that had been closed down that connected communities to a local hospital. We have to go out in communities that feel left behind and win back their trust. And the policies are about redistributing wealth and power. We are talking about a super rich minority in this country that have seen their wealth treble since 2010. We have 50 rich families who hold more wealth than half the country. So we need a wealth tax, but we also need to nationalize the entire economy. Obviously, like I said, utilities, transport, energy are important, but we need to look beyond that. We need to look at the banks, we need to look at construction, we need to look at the entire economy. And also, the fact that this Labour government is happy to continue with PFIs, I know that I speak for the entire movement, our NHS in public hands for everyone. So no more austerity, No more local governments overseeing austerity. We are here to fight cuts. We're not here to oversee them. And so we will fight with communities on the issues that they care about, and our members will decide what those priorities are.
Thank you.
I'm going to take 2 more press questions, then go to the floor. Can I have Ethan from Open Democracy?
Thank you. Hi, Zarah. Clearly, there are a lot of forces arrayed against the left. One of the most important and probably the most powerful is the City of London and financial centres. And we've had a lot of talk about bond vigilantes recently. Does the left, does your party have a plan to take on those powers that will absolutely be arrayed against a left before it comes close to power? And I appreciate you can't lay it all out here, but can you give us a taste of what that plan is?
I think it's criminal that after the financial crisis in 2008 caused by bankers, not a single one of them went to jail while our communities paid the price with austerity. And the fact that people talk about a magic money tree, well, it exists. It is in the City of London. And that's why we talk about taking over the financial services and redirecting all the wealth that they have towards healthcare, housing, green jobs. That's the future of our country. And we have to take on the banks as well.
And finally, is Ruby here from the Telegraph?
Yeah. Hi. Hi, Zarah. I presume I'm right in saying that given that you advocate for dual membership, you'd reverse the expulsions today.
Absolutely.
But why did they happen, do you think? And do you think it's the same set of people who, as you mentioned, have briefed against you personally?
Yes, I think there is a culture of paranoia at the very top where disagreements are seen as existential. And when you have a movement that is seeking to unite the left, bringing socialists of every stripe in, you have to allow people to be able to organize. And one of the motions that we have for this conference is to have factions that are open, transparent, and public. That is part of a healthy democratic culture. And what I think has happened is that people who have become very used to the way that the Labour Party treats its members, where they are just seen as volunteers who just knock on doors, post leaflets and just fundraise, but not seen as decision makers. I think that is a culture that is being replicated. We must call it out and say that we are not here to build another Labour Party that has witch hunts on the eve of conference, that expels people and treats MPs, councillors and members like crap. I don't think that's acceptable, and we will fight a culture that is toxic and doesn't seek to unify the left.
I'm going to take some questions from the floor now, if I may. I'll come.
Hi, thanks, Zarah. I'm Andrew. I'm chair of the Democratic Bloc. And firstly, I want to send my solidarity and the whole movements to Zarah for the disgusting treatment that you've faced. It's been totally unacceptable. Bullying, intimidation, and lawfare, it's complete. It has no place in our movement. And particularly the sabotage that we saw against you on question time was unforgivable. So I've got 2 questions. How do we ensure that these tactics and culture straight out of the Labour Right playbook do not feature in the party going forward? And you've been calling for a directly elected 1 member, 1 vote general secretary. Can you talk about why that's so important to make sure that the people that are doing these briefings, manoeuvrings, expulsions are held to account by the members and work for the members?
I'll come back.
Thank you. I've supported OMOV, one member, one vote for treasurer, and also general secretary. I think we need financial transparency. Where members' money has gone, and that means a financial audit as soon as possible. We should also have accountability for a general secretary. We've seen what's happened in the Labour Party, where a friend of the leadership is given a job and there is very little accountability. Members decide who runs this party, from its executive committee to its representatives, right the way to the very top of general secretary. That's how you ensure that it is truly led by members. I think in terms of the culture, if we empower every single member in our communities to get involved, if we allow people to get involved in our democracy, if we increase our membership, then the power is truly with the members and it will not be concentrated at the top. That has been the issue with a top-down party machine. We need grassroots empowered, we need member democracy. And for me, maximum member democracy isn't just a slogan, it is what we have to establish, because otherwise we're just like all the other parties. We're just here to win elections, and elections are important, of course they are. We need to win state power, but we also need to build social power. We need to increase trade union density. We need to stop our neighbors from being evicted. We need to be on anti-fascist mobilization, so when the likes of Tommy Robinson come, they know they are not welcome. So we have a whole social movement electoral vehicle to build, and that requires mass participation from our members. And with that comes a culture of empowering members and not allowing some of the toxic stuff that you referenced. It is a backroom culture that we need to destroy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Zarah. Tina Becker from Sheffield. We were the one regional assembly that allowed voting. Yay! Members-led power. And this is, of course, the issue this whole weekend. And I hear what you're saying about collective leadership, and that's a really important thing. I have no confidence that this election to the CEC will be any less stitched up, any less manipulated, any less badly run than this conference. And that's a real worry. I think we're dealing with a very small group of people who have shown their utter disregard to democracy. And I personally do not believe they're going to, after this weekend, suddenly become more democratic. What are we going to do to step up against this witch hunt and to call for more democracy? For example, I mean, I used to help run Labour against the witch hunt, which was directed against Jeremy Corbyn. Now he is running a witch hunt against the left. I mean, is this ridiculous or what? We have to stand up and say we're not going to take this. We're not going to implement it. Not everybody likes the SWP. I know there are lots of people who think, well, it's just the SWP. They kind of, who cares? Witch hunts have a habit of really getting out of control really quickly. And then the next person, and he spoke up, and the Democratic Bloc, they said something horrible. We really have to stop. We shouldn't implement it. The branches should say, fuck that. SWPers, everybody can come to our meetings. You have the same right. Do not implement the witch hunt. And another thing, tomorrow, the conference, we have to be clear, the conference is sovereign.
Yes.
It can decide anything it wants. It can stand up in the morning and say, no, we don't like your standing orders. We want to have debates. We want to hear those amendments. And I call on delegates tomorrow, be brave. Don't follow rules that you know are wrong. Don't follow them. Fight back. Reject the standing orders. Let's have a proper democratic conference.
I think you covered a lot in that. I think it's important that as a movement, we demand elections for our executive committee with independent oversight, and we demand that those happen before the end of the year. We need to make sure that our leadership is accountable. It is not anointed. It is democratically elected. I also think that we shouldn't be spending resources where people are looking through people's social media to see if they've been on panels with the SWP or if they've organised, because I think all of us have been on panels with the SWP and organised with the SWP, because that's what we do on the left. We work with everyone because we have one common cause, and that is socialism and making people's lives materially better. So we should be spending our resources in building power in our communities and not taking part in a witch hunt. So I think members will obviously look at the conference structure that has been given to them, and you as members have full right to accept whatever is being put forward or reject it, and that's within your right, and I would never dare to tell you what to do. That is entirely your right. So that is member democracy, guys. Do what you want.
Thanks, Zarah.
Hello, yes. My name's Evelyn McColgan from the Spartacus League. The Corbyn wing of this party has declared war on the left. They have launched a witch hunt today against the SWP. They have been witch hunting you, Zarah, for 3-4 weeks, briefing against you, and so on. I think everyone in the room is against this, but what we need is a strategy. This has to be fought. It is not enough to just talk about democracy. There needs to be a fight. There are politics involved. And the one thing that this party needs above all is a program that will take on and fight and defeat the British establishment. That has to be on 3 bases. No to Zionism, no to NATO, and it must be solidly for the working class. And that is the basis on which to rally this party, make it strong, and take the fight to the witch hunters, because that's what they cannot stand. Jeremy Corbyn, he had to be confronted.
We just need to get some more questions in. Thank you so much.
Understood. Thank you. We'll come back down the front. Thank you. Sorry. Quickly.
I think that was a statement.
I think so.
Question.
Okay. Thanks, Zarah. I also wanted to ask a question about collective leadership, but I just wanted to say quickly that I was also expelled earlier today with Lewis once I'd already got off my train and was in Liverpool. And I think I sense, I'm thankful for all the solidarity from the room today, and I think it's important that we fight this. But I just want to say that as a Muslim woman who's been told my whole life that I don't have a place in politics, I didn't think that the call would also be coming from inside.
Sorry, coming back.
I don't know, can people hear me? Yeah.
Is it coming back?
Hello?
Do you want to use this one?
Hello?
I don't know. This one isn't working either. Just carry on.
Okay. Well, I didn't think that the call would be coming from inside the house as well on the eve of conference. So I think that it shows all the more clearer what everyone has said about the need for more democracy going into conference. I also want to thank those that support. We're asking people to come to outside the conference centre at 9 a.m. tomorrow for all those that show their solidarity at 9 a.m. tomorrow. But I wanted to ask about collective leadership. Oh, sorry. 9 a.m. tomorrow about our outside conference. We're asking people to come and show solidarity with those that have been expelled. But I wanted to ask about collective leadership, because I think some of the reason we've got into this mess in the first place is because there are individuals who have seen themselves as self-appointed leaders making the decisions for the party as a whole. And I think that it's right that we need to support collective leadership, because that's where our power lies, in the collective, in the movements on the streets, in the workplaces, in the anti-racist movement, in the members and the activists actually on the ground. And we need a leadership that isn't just motivated by infighting or by bureaucracy, but actually reflects those movements and seeks to build them as well. But I just wondered if you could say a bit more about why we all need to support collective leadership.
Thanks, Samira. I don't think we should accept politics as the way it's always been done. I mean, if we felt that way, we wouldn't be creating a new party. And so a collective leadership really puts power in the hands of its members. It is rank and file members who are elected to be party chair and treasurer. It's rank and file members who decide the direction of this party and are held to account. And I think that's an important way of ensuring that this party is led by its members. And I think it's an exciting way where we are all empowered to shape the direction. And I think everyone who has a vote tomorrow should support it. Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to do just one more, but there will be obviously various opportunities throughout conference to ask questions, to put your voice. Yes, I see you, madam. I see you, I promise. But that's only because of time constraints. But it's good to see so many people keenly engaged. I'm going to go to this lady at the front, if I may. She shot her hand up straight away at the start.
All right. Hello, Tracy Hilton, Vice Chair of the National Black Members Committee, PCS. I'm going to resist the lefty tendency to come out with a statement about stuff that's already been done, and I'm going to try and get to the thing. I'd just like to say it's about trade unions, and I'd like to give a big shout out to Nathan from my union, PCS, doing his first speech. Brilliant for my comrade, marvellous Mel Mullins from RMT, who we go way back. My other comrade, Ian Hodson, the legendary Audrey White, who we all know what she did in the trade unions. And it's not trade union, but a shout out to me old muck and mish as well. So the question is basically, trade unions, they were part of the formation of the major Labour Party. They are still very much tied into the Labour Party with the money and the power and everything. What are we going to do to get the trade unions on board on this train? Because we need them.
Trade unions and workers' rights have to be at the heart of what we're building, and that looks, I think, differently to the way that the trade union relationship works with the Labour Party. I don't think we should have affiliates like the trade unions do with the Labour Party, because if you have right-wing trade union leadership that has a disproportionate weighted block vote in the NEC of the Labour Party, the way that I think it should work for your party, or whatever we decide to name the party at the end of this weekend, is we encourage people to join unions. We are on picket lines. We reverse all anti-trade union legislation on day one, and we work to improve workers' rights and have strengthened trade union legislation. And equally, trade unions encourage their members to join your party and are involved in all of our structures, but I don't think it should be an affiliate system that the Labour Party has. Thank you.
Well, we have to leave it there because we were meant to be out of this venue at 10 and it's now 10:27. But my thanks to all of the stewards that made this evening possible, to Audrey and Vivian for doing a lot of the legwork on making this venue available to us, to Zarah and the panel, thank you so much. I'm wishing everybody here and a successful conference. Thank you all very much. Good evening.
For the last 45 years, there has been a massive transfer of wealth from the working and middle classes to the top 1%. Billions of pounds have been taken from the workers and handed to the economic elites. In 2008, the world came to a standstill. The market had failed. Capitalism was in crisis. Yet 16 years on, nothing has changed. The bankers weren't jailed, the banks were bailed out, ordinary people lost everything. It's 2025 and we are now reckoning with a Labour Party that seeks to implement a Tory agenda. We face rising right-wing forces, more division, more misinformation. Yet no one in the mainstream media wants to talk about the real issue, the economic elites who have increased their wealth while the rest of us have become poorer. This isn't just a crisis of inequality, it's a crisis of democracy. The rich aren't just getting richer, they're owning everything. We are facing a global oligarchy and nothing is being done. Why? Because of our media. The same oligarchs who hoard wealth also control our press and now our social networks. This is why independent media isn't just important, it's necessary. It's why we're calling on your support. Turn Left is an organisation run by 5 volunteers working around our full-time jobs. Your contributions have already made a huge difference, whether by covering rallies, producing vox pops and interviews, or upgrading our equipment. That's all possible because of you. But we can do so much more. We can be far more ambitious. So head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support, become a monthly supporter, or give a one-off donation. If you want to fight back against the billionaire class, then help us build a media for people, a media for planet, a media for socialism. Smash the oligarchs. Join Turn Left.